what is the biggest thing that's keeping you stuck? Why do you feel discontent despite achieving what you thought you needed? Something's missing. You've tried other solutions, but nothing has truly fixed your problem, up until now. Download the 3 reasons you're feeling discontent and how to fix it fast at www.jedbrotherson.com and quickly create a clear roadmap that helps you find peace, clarity, and fulfillment. Welcome to the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Each week, we dive deep into themes like overcoming harmful family dynamics, standing up for yourself with courage, speaking out against injustice, and cultivating healthy, authentic relationships. Be sure you visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get ready for empowering stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies that help you break free from negative patterns and create a life rooted in self-respect, clarity, and connection.
Today on Pulverizing the Patterns, our episode is called You're Designed for a Purpose. And I'm honored to have Neena Perez with me. Neena, you've lived through profound adversity, teen pregnancy, abuse, poverty. What was the moment or realization that first cracked the shell of survival mode and showed you that there was more?
That's such a good question. Thank you for having me, first off. I think it was the time where I finally decided that I didn't want to live in this fear anymore. I was tired of just living on survival mode all the time. Because I, have a lot of trauma and things in my life, I realized that I kept working really hard. So I would be the first person in and the last person out all the time, working to the bone, just making sure that somebody would value me. And one day I just sat there and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I have autoimmune conditions. What's up? So I started going down a path of faith. I'm a person of believes in God, and I started going down that path. And I realized as I started learning more about God and how I was created and all those things, I started to break forth. And then in 2018, I wrote my book, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. And that actually was very cathartic. And the moment that I realized that I don't need to be afraid anymore and that I could just speak what is true, what I've gone through, and how I can help others. And that started to shift my mind for a lot of things.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Do you remember a specific event or a divine nudge that made you stop accepting those patterns that you were living in?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it happens in moments, right? And so there's many of them. I remember one time, when me and my husband were going through a moment in our marriage where I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And I just was in this lost space. And I remember praying and saying, God, if I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something different or not, going a different direction and I'm stuck. I said, so at that time I was in medical. But all my life since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a chef. And so I felt like this nudge to be a chef. And I'm like, how can I do that? That would mean finding a school, going somewhere, all that kind of stuff. And then I said, God, I'll tell you what, if you come down here physically, because I think I'm all that in a bag of chips, Jed, right? So if you come down here physically and you tell me, God, that I am released, I will go ahead and quit my job and I will go back to school. And because I don't feel like I'm good enough, I don't feel like I can do it. I don't, all the things. And I said, so if you come down here physically and you tell me I'm released, I'll do it. And about 45 minutes later, my husband comes home from work and he comes into the room and he's like, babe, I have to tell you something. I said, sure. He goes, I was in the car, I was just listening to worship music and, praying and stuff. And I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel like God told me to come in here and tell you you're released. Do you know what that means? I said, excuse me? He said, you're released? I said, I'm what? Say that again? Because, come on, Jed. At that point, was like, I mean, he didn't know I just did that prayer. Nobody knew, right? So that was the moment when I realized that God was listening to me, that he loved me, that he watched out for me, that it was time for me to really let go of the old patterns and fear and all of those things. And so I remember, Jed, driving to, I found a school, a local university that was there. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't have any money. I said, so God, you told me I'm released. And I hear, because I really didn't have a father in my life, and my stepfather abused me. So I didn't really have a great male figure in my life. But I remember praying this and saying, God, you know what? If I hear that fathers pay for their kids' college, I said, so since you're my only father and you have released me, you need to pay for college because I can't do it. Well, Jed, let me tell you, not only did he pay for my culinary certification, he paid for my associate's degree, and he gave me a full scholarship to my bachelor's degree. I didn't pay a dime for college the entire time. And I started to realize that I had to stop leaning on my own understanding and started to lean on something bigger and more powerful than I, so that I can start breaking those patterns in my life of scarcity and fear and trauma and victimhood and all of those things. That's just one story of many.
Right. I mean, that's pretty profound to have God send you a message like that, and then
Yeah.
back to the support payment, right?
Yeah.
How do you see the role of our shadow, or like the unhealed, hidden parts of our lives that might have helped you transform?
The role of the shadow, I think, is to remind us of the things we have overcome. And so when I think about all of the darker parts of my past, my life, I'm grateful for them. I used to be a victim of them, but I am now grateful. And and I'm grateful because I've realized how much I have overcome, and maybe some were coping mechanisms, right? Like when I was a little girl, it was sugar. Sugar was my addiction, and it has been my addiction most of my life. But it was because it was something I did to soothe the hurt that was happening from within me. But I also realized, like, all the dark moments, all the depression I had in my life, all the anxieties I've had, all of the traumas, all of the abuse, all of the things. When those things start to creep up, because they do, we're human, right? So there are moments where you go to that place. And when those dark places come, or the negative voices or whatever happens in our life that comes and tells us we're not good enough, wise enough, whatever the enough thing is, I immediately thank the thought and thank the situation. And I say, oh, you know what? Thank you, because you're reminding me that I am not there anymore, nor do I have to be. I can make a choice today to not be that thing, right? So instead of me going into that deep place of depression and darkness, which I used to, right? So what used to take me years to get out of, started to then take me months to get out of, then weeks, then days, and now it takes minutes, right? So, yeah.
Do you have any personal practices that help you stay in relationship with your shadow, so it's not running your life?
I believe in feeling it to heal it, right? So I don't suppress pain, because then it doesn't disappear. So I really sit with it for a minute. I don't ignore it. I don't throw it to the side. I acknowledge that emotion is there, and I say, okay, this is a place where I don't want to stay, but it is a place I am in now. And so what am I learning from this feeling? What am I getting out of this? How do I shift and move forward, right? What is it that it's hiding? Sometimes it feels like, to me, like a screen, like a smoke screen, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I visualize the pain or the shadow when it comes. And I'm like, okay, what are you hiding? What is it that I'm not seeing? So then that makes me kind of like shift my mind into what's around that screen that I'm not looking at, right? Where is the benefit of this? Because I think that not all of it has to be bad. It can be to remind you that something is lurking that is good around the corner, that you have to get through this to get to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. What do you find that people are either completely blind to, or that they really want, as we're talking about shadow, people try to avoid it. Like, so what do you find people are either most blind to, or like most desperately avoid when it comes to these patterns that keep them stuck?
Well, I think the one thing we avoid is the pain of it, right?
Yeah.
Because whatever happened that gave you that pain, you don't want to feel that crap again. Who the heck wants to feel that, right? So we kind of run away from it because then we feel like we don't have control over it. And so if we don't have control over it, we don't want to deal with that, right? It's hurtful. It takes you to a place maybe you don't like yourself, right? And so why would we want to like a vacation there? I do say we should look at it, visit it, feel it, acknowledge it. We don't have to vacation there, meaning we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay there, right? So it's that renewing it's the reshift and renewing and rewriting the narrative, right? Because, trauma really, or the things that we have gone through should not get the final word. You should.
Yeah.
And so we should shift that, right? So don't avoid it. Look at it, feel it, know it, acknowledge it, right? If I'm a jerk, I acknowledge I'm a jerk, right? I'm like, you know what? That was a real jerky thing I just did. I apologize for that, right? Instead of just like, ooh, let me run away from that. No, let's start facing it, and you'll realize that the shadow is only there to remind you of things you've overcome, of ways you can get forward. Maybe it gives you a different strategy of looking at things, so that's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that helps us distinguish between the voice rooted in trauma and the one that comes from our thoughts rooted in that's the trauma voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Voice that comes from the truth. Were there any internal beliefs that you had to let go of to create your vision, or this new version of yourself that you're living
Oh
now?
my gosh, yes. I mean, the biggest one for me was it's everybody else's fault. And so, it's because of everything that everybody did to me. I had to so let go of that. I had to let go of, here it goes again, or everything happens to me. And that's the thing too, right? We categorize like everything in one bundle, right? So you hit your toe and you say, my whole day is ruined. You hit your toe. It took 2 seconds. What are you talking about, right? It's like, what, you drop something. That's it. The whole day is, I should go back to bed and start over, that type of thing. I had to stop being a victim. I had to stop being a victim of circumstances and understand that things are in moments, right? Good things come and go, by the way, and bad things come. And guess what? They also go. Right? So we can't just be a victim every time. And that's what I had to start to learn, is that not one thing has to ruin my everything. I had to stop like putting everything in ginormous categories.
Yeah, you said that so well. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
You mentioned your faith as a compass in your work. How did your understanding of God shift as you moved from survival into the empowerment mindset?
Yeah, you know what? I remember, I can't remember the time and day, but I do remember the day that I was praying, and because I was depressed and I was struggling a lot with depression, and I didn't want to go on medication. And my doctor was telling me, you should be on Lexapro, you should be on this, you should be on that. I'm like, I don't want to do those things though, So I remember just literally surrendering, Jed. I just literally surrendered. I said, you know what? God, I give here. Take it. I'm done. Like I am done with this depression thing and anxiety. I was waking up every night, not breathing. Like it was terrible. And I'll never forget it because it was a moment of freedom, but also not knowing myself without the depression. Because I've been depressed for so long that to let it go, I didn't know who I was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of just sat there like, oh no, now what? Right? Because now the victim is gone And I remember like I almost felt like it left my body, like the victim left my body. It's weird to say, but that's how it felt. Like I really surrendered it. I said, God, I don't want it anymore. Like literally, I'm not even hanging on to the strings of it. I don't want it. And I'm like, I'm giving it to you, and I'm going to replace that with the freedom that it says in your word that I have. So I'm going to replace it with that. And every day I'm going to wake up like that. So I started a gratitude thing where I started get up every day with 3 things that I was grateful for, or I wouldn't get out of bed. And that shifted my entire life. I haven't been depressed in over 20 years.
Man, congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing. How do you help clients integrate their faith and the mindset into this healing journey, especially those that have spiritual trauma or feel unworthy of divine guidance?
Yeah. The first thing I do is, like I said earlier, is you have to feel it to heal it, right? Because suppressing this pain does not make it disappear. It stores it, right? So you need to acknowledge if you're angry, you have shame, fear, unforgiveness, whatever the thing is, resentment, right? You need to start creating a safe space. I do this for my women. I create a safe space for them to have these feelings and be okay and not be judged. And you need to do that for yourself as well, right? Because I'm a person who believes in God, in Psalms, it says that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, right? And he's there with you in crushed spirit. So I remind them of that. And then we rewrite our narratives, right? Trauma doesn't have to get the final word. You get the final word. All right. So we have to, the way I do it is I kind of guide them into their identity. Who are they? Separating the experiences from who they are, because they are not broken. They need to reframe that. They survived something hard. Most of the times we think we're broken because maybe we have bad thoughts, or maybe we're in a dark place, or maybe we're not nice people because we're hurting, right? And when somebody comes to me and they're mean or cruel or rude or those things, I'm not that. Or I try not to be anyway for most of my life, right? But if people come to me that way, the first reaction for me is, wow, they must be hurting about something. Because I think most people, hurt people. I believe that, right? Yeah. So we rewrite narratives. We start talking about those type of things, and that's how we do it. We reshape that self-talk into truth and empowerment, right? And we practice them being aware that they're feeling something in their body. It's important. Yeah.
Right. Man, that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a growing movement of women building businesses from their own pain stories. What's your perspective on turning lived experiences into service for other people?
That's exactly what I do, right? I mean, I believe that all the things that we have gone through, our experiences and everything, to me, is wealth, right? Because, and this is the other thing I think we have to like demystify. You don't need to be 1,000 steps ahead of somebody. You can just be a chapter ahead. Right? So I wish people would stop thinking that they have to be the expert for everybody. And when you think that way, you start to develop an identity that is not yours. And you start to show up in a way that is not authentic. And honestly, you just need to know something more than the person you're trying to help. Right? So I think a lot about this story about that young man who went into the university, acted like a professor, took over a class, and was teaching the class. And did you know the story, Jed?
Catch me if you can. That was one of the things he did.
No, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he went into a university. He taught a class, and then they finally found out that he was, that he was not the right professor, that he was actually just a student. And they asked him, because he was there for like a month. The students were doing well, and they were thriving in the class. And they're like, "How did you do this? You impersonated a professor and all this other stuff." He said, "Oh, I just read a chapter ahead of them." Right? Mm-hmm. And so he was able to teach the class by reading a chapter ahead. Why do I say that? Because all of us think that we need to have so many things. And let me tell you something. We all have everything we need. Everything we need. All of your life experiences, job experiences, skill sets, all the things you're passionate about, love doing, things that fire you up. Somebody else is looking for somebody to guide them in that. Right? Yeah. That's how I feel. That's what I feel. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. That loud voice that many of us have, like, who do you think you are, shows up often, stepping. So, especially as people are trying to step into their calling and find their path,
Hmm.
say to women who hear that voice daily.
Say that
Or
again.
what do you say to people that hear that voice daily? Who do you think they are? Who do you think you are that's just running in their own mind? They're not there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that question because it always comes up for everyone. I've spoken to, I used to work with billionaires and they still had that question. Who do you
Mm.
think you are? Right.
Yeah.
So I don't care where you are in life. We're all going to have that question. So what you do is you start to write down who you actually are. And then when that voice comes up, like, who do you think you are? Well, I actually am. And you have
Yeah.
your list, right? So I have this thing I do, and I have the ladies in my coaching program do this, is in a mirror in your bathroom with a Sharpie. And I got this from my amazing coach. He's amazing. So take a Sharpie. I go to my mirror, and every time somebody compliments me or says something about me, I write it on my mirror in a Sharpie. And the reason I use a Sharpie is because, if you're in a bathroom, it's going to like get, like the water from your shower and all that. And you don't want it to come off. Okay. So my mirror is halfway full now.
Mhm.
And you could do it two ways. So whoever's listening, you could either ask someone to say, do you have words about me that you would use to describe me? And you could write those. Or you can allow God or the universe, whatever you call it, to send you the words that describe you. So that's what I do. I kind of just let people tell me how they feel about me. And when they do, I write it down. So I have like great chef, amazing, amazing coach, beautiful, kind, whatever the words are. And it's on my mirror. And every morning, after my gratitude, because I have to have 3 things I'm grateful for every day, I do some stretches. I go in to take my shower. But before I do, I read all the words. That is who I am, because those are the words that people have given me that I didn't even fish for, but they just were said. You know what I mean? So that's what I do. When that word, and it does come up, Jed, all the time. It's the first thing to greet you in the morning. Who do you think you are? Right? And I'm like, oh, I got an answer for that. Hold on. I got an answer. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I am a child of God. I am beautiful. I am kind. I am gentle. I am blah, 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 blah. And I have my whole list. So be intentional. Go grab a pen and pad. Write yourself a list. You know who you are. Stop letting other things tell you who you are. Period.
I love that. Now transitioning from that part into like when you began coaching and speaking, how did you, what aspects of imposter syndrome did you face and how did you overcome?
Yeah. Well, are you good enough? I don't know enough. I don't know how to do that, so therefore I'm dumb. That kind of thing, right? Because you feel like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. And what happens is, right, it's called learn something. I forgot what it's called. When you don't know how to do something and somebody tells you you don't know how to do it. And then when you get to something that you do know how to do, you still don't know how to do it because you've already been telling yourself you don't know how to do it, if that makes sense. I forgot what it's called. Learning disadvantage, I think, or disadvantage learning or something. But what that means is that, if you don't know something, learn it.
Yeah.
See, we live right now in a beautiful time where we have Google and YouTube and all the great things. And we have a lot of amazing coaches out there too that can guide you and help you. Try, first of all, not to do it alone, because doing things alone just takes you way longer, right? But, the things that come up for me were always like, are you good enough? Are you smart enough? Who wants to listen to you anyway? That kind of thing, right? Well, I just got my, hooray, you got, almost 200,000, views and listens on YouTube, right? So I'm like, oh, hooray, that's good, So people are listening. That's amazing. I didn't think anybody wanted to. But when you start doing it because it's a love and passion of what you want to do, stop listening to the other voices that are in yourself and also other voices that are around you, and just be guided by the truth. You can do this. There's no reason why you can't. When I was becoming a coach, I'm like, who's going to pay me that amount of money to have me coach them? Well, I have a really successful business, so quite a few people, right?
Yeah.
So you just don't know, though. Just step out anyway. Who cares? If you fail now while nobody knows you. right? Do it right now. When you got 5 people or no people listening, this is the time.
I love that. But yeah, just step out what I found is it gave me opportunities to exercise that faith, and then as that builds, it just continued to build.
Yeah.
Are you looking back now with clear eyes? What patterns? This question kind of comes from like back when I learned what a cognitive distortion was. I didn't understand how that was affecting my perception or perspective on reality. So looking back now with clear eyes, what patterns did you once think were normal, that you had, or that you now look back and see as complete illusions or survival scripts?
That's such a good question. I'm trying to think of like all the patterns because, Jed, I threw away quite a few patterns, right? I mean, I can't pick one out right now. I know that there's been many, many patterns, right? Like, working really hard is how you become successful, right? So yes, I believe that working hard, you can become successful, but I was working to the point of illness, right? I worked to the point of now I'm dealing with autoimmune conditions and things like that because I thought that's what you had to do. You had to go to school, get a job, work until you're, 100 years old and die, and I realized that actually what I need to do is pause for a second, align myself with what it is God wants me to do, shift all those things. And yes, I'm still working hard, but I'm working hard in a passion that I love. And that is way different than what I thought was the right thing. Right. And I think we're all conditioned that way too, because I've learned that I make more money teaching what I've learned and what I've done than actually doing the thing. Right. So I make more money teaching culinary and coaching and all the things that I do than I was running a restaurant. So, a lot of us can teach and make more money than somebody paying us a paycheck. And remember that your employee or employer, I should say, is your first client because you've actually convinced them to pay you to do your job.
Right. Could you dive into that just a little bit more how has this changed your definition of success as you've done this work?
Because I no longer look for success as the next monetary thing.
Yeah.
I used to. Right. So I said to myself, when I get 6 figures, when I make 6 figures, that's it. It's going to be amazing. I made 6 figures and I was like, oh, felt like yesterday. What's the next goal? Right. And I realized that what am I doing? Chasing that anyway. That's so fleeting and ridiculous. So I realized that if I started to chase the things I love and started to do the things I want to do and impacting people's lives and seeing them shift and change and seeing all of the stuff that I can do that way, the money will come, right? So instead of me chasing the next promotion, the next monetary thing, the next money, the next car, the next house, the next whatever, I realized that the moment I stopped doing that and just started being, those things came. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody is listening right now, they're feeling buried beneath the usual shame, fear, generational traumas. What would you like to whisper to their soul today?
You are so worthy of more than that, right? I want you to reconnect with your body, with your soul, your spirit through compassion and not control. Don't try to control anything. Just be. Be connected. If you're angry, good. Feel anger. It's okay. If you are having shame, put the shame in the right place. And what I mean by that is I carried so much shame when my father molested me that I was like carrying his shame and mine. No. There are 2 different types of shame. There's the shame that you should have if you did something wrong, deal with it, release it. But there's also shame that we carry that doesn't belong to us, right? My father molesting me was not my fault. It was his fault. He did it. But why did I carry that? Right? When I opened up my mouth and started speaking about it, all of that started to release because I realized that when I was a little girl and I told my mother, she told me to shut up and stop lying. So I learned to shut up and not say anything. And so I carried the shame for a very, very long time. And so we need to understand that those things, things that have happened. There's nothing you can do. What you can do now is look at it, experience it, be shame if there's shame, have anger if there's anger, be pissed if you're pissed, throw something if you need to, right? And then let it go. And what I mean by letting it go is like looking at it and say, okay, you have served me this many years of my life, but I want a new chapter and I don't want to bring you with me on this rodeo. And start releasing all of that stuff in your life. That's what I would say. Don't keep it anymore. And find practices that will help you. Start to journal. Start to establish boundaries rooted in self-worth, not guilt. Make yourself boundaries and understand that other people might not like it, and that's okay. That's their problem, not yours. Set your boundaries so that you can start caring for yourself. And another thing I love doing, Jed, I don't know if you do this, but I love going outside barefoot. I love grounding. Right?
I love to do it. I'm just like not practiced. Like there's that show Naked and Afraid, and I
oh yeah, I don't know about do all that, but yes.
I was like, I'd like to do it, but they don't have shoes. My feet are too tender.
Right. That's how I feel out here because we moved from up north to Texas, and the grass here is very, very different. It's rough, so I found it a little bit harder to do here. But if you're in a place where you can walk outside and just like stand in grass or something, it just does something. It just feels good. Yeah. But just to release all that crap and for me, it's like more of a metaphorical thing too, because I go out there and I'm just like releasing everything and I'm putting it in the ground and I'm leaving it there, and that's how I do it in my own mind anyway.
This place I currently live in has a river nearby and a little sandbar, so I can go do it in the wet sand. And I don't know. I used to be an electrician, so I just feel like it helps me ground.
Yeah.
In the damp soil is really good. But we got to find that way to release that, like you're saying. I love that.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about what you've offered as a free gift? This Elevate Your Wisdom to Health or to Wealth. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. The free gift is really, that actually is a compilation of all the lessons that I teach for the women or men can use it too, but it's mainly written for women. They can actually start creating their own business. So basically their own coaching business, but they can use the framework for anything. So it kind of helps them go, okay, what's your foundations? Who are you? What do you love? What fires you up? How can we bring that out into the world? How do we monetize that? Right? And then when we talk about that, then it goes into, I think the next step is like, who is it that you're speaking to? What do you want to call yourself? Who out there in the world needs what you're offering? Like that kind of thing. So who's your client? Who's the thing? Right? And then it talks about how do you start? Maybe you reach out to those you already know to ask for referrals and so on and so forth. So it'll guide them through that whole process so they can have the beginning of a roadmap to their new business.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Where do the listeners find you? Where do we go?
Well, you can find me anywhere with Straight Talk, No Sugar added, or Neena Perez. And Neena spelled Neena Perez. So you can literally look me up and you'll find me everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Neena, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing your most valuable commodity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jed.
Thank you for tuning into the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Remember to visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast.